What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to talk about why on earth I believe the market is due for a bounce very soon. As long as there's no new bad pieces of news, I believe the market's due forwards. I'm going to break down why the charts are showing that and why it's going to be very nice to witness over the next couple of trading days, in my opinion. But before I break anything down about why on earth that is, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, let me just break down a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just 7 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. Why on earth am I talking about a potential bounce? Well, looking at the charts, it's very clear that when we zoom out, let's go to the 30 minutes time frame on Aapl. When you look at it, you will see that there is this divergence that has formed right about here. You'll see the RSI has been kind of trending upwards while the price was going lower. And as a result, Aapl is starting to uptrend it just a little bit. It's starting to form higher highs and higher lows. On top of that, there is a potential slanted inverse head and shoulders that's starting to form right about here. And I do believe this thing could try bouncing as a result of that. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, it's not really showing just yet, but you could see how it hit this bottoming level in this very oversold territory. Now it's making attempts to bounce. But in my opinion, you have to remember that Apple has this event for September 12th. Okay, they could be announcing the next iPhone. This is some big news. So, approaching this event, what could happen is Apple should start pumping a little bit. I think it's very probable. But after the event, there's a risk of Apple selling off. So after this event comes out, Apple could sell off more. Before the event, as we approach it, right, as we approach September 12th, the market might start uptrending just a little bit. Now, I think we dropped really hard. We're quite oversold. I think the market's due for a slight bounce very soon. And it's not just Apple that's showing us this. Also, SPY and the QQQ are telling us the same story. I'm going to break all of these down in just a few minutes. But let me just talk about something else with Apple. When you look at the 5-minute time frame, we have this very nice looking structure where Apple is now trying to establish a higher low. We have this inverse head and shoulders, like I said before, the bullish divergence that developed right here. You can see it on the 5 minutes, and it looks like this thing is set to try pushing up higher. As long as it's going to break above the 200 EMA, as long as it gets above this level right about here, above 180, we could see this thing start pushing towards the very low 180s. So I think there's a good chance of it making attempts to do so. And I think that that's very probable, so long as there's no bad news again for tomorrow. So I'm leaning more in that direction. When it comes to Tesla, however, when you look at Tesla, it's looking pretty decent so far. Because when you zoom out of the charts, do not forget that Tesla has this very nice looking divergence that is formed on the MACD. And on top of this, Tesla, we had this possible like inverse cup and handle, but luckily Tesla got a nice bounce and it hasn't really played out. We didn't see Tesla sink. So this was like a nice trap that could have been set to trick lots of investors into shorting Tesla. Instead, it didn't really get the break. That's why I talked about watching our support. Instead of hitting 242, Tesla bounced off 243. And after getting that bounce, we're actually back above some critical levels. So I believe with the bullish divergence that formed on it, there's also a bullish divergence on our MACD that technically developed. Tesla's going to be pushing higher towards these imbalances, and we could see 255 by tomorrow. I think it's due for a slight bounce. I think it's going to make an attempt to push to at least 252 if we hold above 250 very soon. So watch 250, 252.5, and 255 as our resistance levels, with 248 and 245 being our critical supports. I think there's a good chance Tesla's going to try pushing higher. I think by tomorrow and also by Monday, we could see some upside thanks to Aapl. When it comes to SPY, we have another bullish divergence on the MACD and the RSI. And I think this thing is due for a nice technical level bounce. If you look at what happened in my prediction video from yesterday, I told you that SPY could either bounce from 444 or we could come down to the 442 level, which is where our imbalance was, and then get the bounce. And if you don't believe me, you could watch my previous video. I called this. We're getting the bounce already. Despite the bad news that came out for like Aapl, yes, SPY came down, gap down kind of hard before getting another bounce. And we have that unfilled gap above at 445. So my prediction is this. I think that this thing is going to make an attempt to break our resistance at 445, get to 445.8, then 447.5 above that, with support being 444 flat, 443.5, and then 442.5. I think it's going to push up higher. I think that this thing is due for a bounce. We have this unfilled pre-market gap as well that was unfilled up at 446, and I think we're going to fill this by tomorrow. That's what I'm leaning towards. Now, for tomorrow, right, we could always open a little bit different depending on the news, but I do believe the odds favor a push to the upside and a very technical bounce just based off these technicals. As long as there's no bad news, this thing should bounce and try to push back above 446. Over the next couple of trading days, I'm leaning more in that direction, and I think it's very probable for that to play out as long as there's no horrible piece of news. For Aapl, don't forget, I think it's going to try to make its way up with inverse head and shoulders back above 180. So we're going to be watching that for the next couple of trading days approaching its big event. To add on to this, looking at the QQQ, we have a very similar structure on the QQQ. Not really seeing much of a bullish divergence or anything like that, but I am seeing a potential accumulation phase, a nice inverse head and shoulders, and it's trying to test the 20 EMA. I think it's going to break 372 at the 20 EMA very soon, and then try to push up to 373.5, 374, then 375 above that. We also have this gap zone, which is going to act as its potential pivot point. So watch the 200 EMA. For support, watch 370 and then 369 and 368 below that. I think this thing is going to chop for a little bit, but eventually we're going to make an attempt to break out to higher levels, such as 374 over the next couple of days. Nvda is looking quite decent. We have a nice bullish divergence that developed on it. We have a double bullish divergence as of right now, despite the fact that it's on this trend. I'm seeing two possibilities. The support I called on Nvidia was 448 to 450, that zone. We hit 451. There are two possibilities. Either it comes down to visit that zone, then we get the bounce, depending on tomorrow, or it tries to bounce from here. I'm leaning in that direction for Nvidia. I think it's going to fill this gap over the next couple of days and come back to 470. So I'm leaning in the direction of there being some sort of bounce. When you zoom out of the charts, especially on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that Nvidia is also at the 200 EMA, so it may try to bounce very close to this level. And I think that Nvidia is due for it as long as there's no bad news that comes out. Nvidia may bounce tomorrow with the market. Now, I think Aapl may lead the market up for tomorrow and also for Monday if there's nothing bad that happens to it. I think it may push the market up with some positive momentum. But then after its event, things could change. So just be very careful approaching this event. Besides that, another reason why I'm talking about some potential upside for the markets is because when you look at the VIX on the 30 minutes time frame, we have a bearish divergence that developed, and the VIX is starting to cool off. And we also have this gap down here, this gap all the way back down into the 14.4 level. Not to mention another gap down here around the 14 level. So with these gaps down here and the VIX getting a bearish cross in the PPO, this makes me suspect that there's a possibility of the VIX turning around. We also had this bearish divergence rejection that's developed. And with that forming, there's a chance the VIX may start to downtrend. Now, is it a guarantee? Not just yet. We need to see the VIX break below like 14.75 and some other levels like that before anything. And this is going to depend on the market, but I do believe there's a high probability of the market pushing and causing the VIX to get those drops. Also, the dollar got rejected off this level too. We hit 105, but we didn't hold above it. We actually got a rejection off a bearish divergence. And now we have a bearish crossover on the PPO for the dollar and also on the 4-hour time frame, suggesting that there could be some downside for the dollar. The dollar may cool off after getting this big rejection off 105. And this could lead to some downside for it, which would pump the market even higher. That's part of why if you look at Tesla, it's currently at like 250, trying to hold up. SPY was at 442, now it's at 444.5 as of right now. So it's showing some life, and there's a chance SPY may make an attempt to bounce very soon. So can I promise a bounce? I can't promise anything, guys. I can't always predict the news, but technicals are suggesting, okay, that we may get a bounce very soon. And I think the odds do favor that for either tomorrow or Monday, but I'm leaning more towards tomorrow based off what we're seeing on the dollar and the VIX. Hopefully this is helpful. I think it's very probable Aapl needs to rebound since it's very oversold. We have this event coming up. So approaching the event, we should see Aapl pump, but after the events, we tend to see Aapl sell off after events, but approaching the events, we could see Aapl push up. So as we approach September 12th, we might see Aapl try to push up very soon. All right, so hopefully it's helpful. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and I'll most definitely see you guys in the later video for today. Thank you, and peace out.